All right, we're here with Eric Bauberger, right?
Awesome. Yep.
Awesome. I love when I pronounce names right. Anyway, so thanks very much for being on the podcast. I appreciate you reaching out. You had reached out to me, I don't know, it was probably months ago, because you've got like a rock opera coming up, right? That you're releasing in singles, right? Tell me a little bit about that. What's it about? What kind of inspired it?
So the rock opera is really a long time coming. It's over a dozen songs, maybe 13 and a half if you count many songs. It's
Okay.
a story that is very personal to me. It's very factual, so it's kind of autobiographical.
Hmm.
Um, and the music as a whole is really a collection of my songs since I first really started writing as a teenager. So I kind of see it as a best of as well.
Oh, okay, cool.
But what really started, I would say the idea or the concept of the rock opera was a pretty significant and even tragic experience
Mhm.
with my older sister
Oh, no.
coming from, a time of a lot of uncertainty, but she was struggling and she was having drug
Hmm.
issues. And as you could imagine, the worst possible outcome,
Uh,
that's something that we faced.
sure. Yep.
And during that time and leading up to that time, I was becoming very engrossed in understanding myself as a human, as a spirit, as a consciousness, in any way that I could understand it, and had been learning these tools that were necessary to get through something traumatic.
Sure. Yep.
And so, right as I got up to that moment, I knew as it was, as it began happening, I knew that one, I needed to be present
Mhm.
to lessen, the suffering, to lessen the pain. Two, I needed to surrender to the process because if I was clinging, if I was resisting, that would create more pain, more
Right.
suffering.
Yep.
And three, if I were to find some way to rise above it or be my best self in it or, use the law of attraction in some way so that things would work out in my favor, I needed to find a way to be grateful and be in that energy of kind of seeing the possibility, seeing
Mhm.
the best possible outcome. And it radically transformed what most people walk away from scarred. I
Right.
walked away inspired and with great
Oh,
purpose.
wow. Okay.
So, it was quite magical. It was quite
Yeah.
mystical. And my sister, being my biggest fan, she was 16 years my elder.
Mhm.
She was the one burning me mix CDs. She was
Oh,
the one
nice.
getting me into alternative rock and the music
Yep.
that really got me playing. So as I was going through this experience, I had this deep realization of one, I need to teach people what I did in order to get through the situation gracefully.
Mhm.
And two, I need to use my music as the vehicle. Like this
That's
was like the
awesome.
big
Yeah.
moment of purpose that could drive the music.
Right.
And so I had been writing a song. I had been a songwriter for a long time, ever since I got my first guitar, naturally writing music, but
Mhm.
didn't really write with other people in a band and perform until right after high school.
Okay.
But leading up to this point, so this was, 7 years after high school to give you an idea of how long
Sure.
I'd been more professionally, I guess, writing. There was a song I was writing that was kind of elusive and not, it was kind of abstract, but taking things that I had read or listened to. It was very like Eastern. It was very Alan Watts. It was
Mhm.
very, um, I guess Buddhist philosophy in
Nice.
there, the Tao.
Yep.
And I was writing the song, and then once I had experienced what I had with my sister, she was in a coma for 11
Oh,
days
man.
before
Yeah.
officially passing. But through in that time, I realized this song is talking about her.
Mhm.
It's talking about her being this formless, shapeless, eternal, infinite, fluid energy that was beyond her physical body.
Right.
So that's what I was really reaching for consciously, was like, if I can't have her physical body anymore, what part of her is left,
Right, right.
and it was love.
That's awesome.
And
Love it.
thank you. And so I realized the song that I had been writing was speaking about her, and the song called She Is Home became the first song of a new project called Rhea,
Mhm.
which means flowing. And so I wrote this song, and while it was a beautiful song and probably lyrically one of my more evolved songs, if you want to think of it that way, it felt incomplete in that it was not in context.
Oh, okay.
Like, I felt like I
Yep.
needed to put it in context so people could really understand because I was trying to teach with it.
Mhm. Sure.
And so, so I needed to tell the story from the moment I heard the news about my sister being in a coma,
Mhm.
to that, moment of, you know, enlightenment about the situation and moving beyond her form. And that became like the first chunk of the rock opera.
Okay.
So it's like I
Yep.
have story that was written in poetry,
Yep.
this song, and then it dawned on me I could tell the story really begins before this. I need to tell
Right.
my whole story.
Right, right.
So it starts from childhood, being this musically inclined boy and the challenges that come with, society and toxic masculinity and
Sure,
this
sure.
idea of success. And,
Yep.
instead of taking the musical route, I became an athlete and all the suffering that came with
Right.
that.
Yep.
And, so it became this, for me, this very cathartic and healing process just to tell my story,
Mhm.
and realizing I already had written all the songs that needed to be in it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Even if
Yeah.
it wasn't like specifically towards that situation, I'm like, oh, this song goes here, this song's
Right, right.
so it was like
Did you
being
have to
written
tweak any of those songs or were they good the way they were?
lyrically. Some of them
Okay.
needed tweaking,
Yep. All right.
whether it changed from me saying you to I,
Okay.
or
Yep.
just changing some of the words to be a little more relevant to the part, but the same melodies,
Mhm.
same
Gotcha. Yep.
choruses and
Cool.
hooks and stuff like that.
Yeah, very cool. Very Yeah, it's tough when you're growing up and, if you're around you had mentioned the toxic masculinity, and I can kind of relate in that it's tough to try to live by those rules of like real men don't cry type stuff, you
Mhm.
know? And if you can kind of get over that and like, learn to be like at one with your feelings and learn to embrace those feelings, life gets a whole lot easier, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm curious about you had said that you had, put in some work to be present and do all those things to help you kind of cope with the loss of your sister. Did a lot of that include therapy, or was that all or was that all just kind of like you reading books? Like, how did you do that? What's the high level? How did you do that?
So I was a psychology minor in
Okay.
college
Mhm.
and didn't realize I was chronically anxious until I was taught about what anxiety was.
Right, right.
So I was so, to give you an idea, I was so anxious that I had like a shakiness in my whole body,
Really?
thinking
Like physical shape or just a feeling? Okay.
physical
Yep,
shakiness,
yep.
and not even realizing when I got stressed that it got worse.
Wow.
But movements that I would try to control had a shakiness to them.
Mhm.
I realized it was just from muscle tension,
Okay.
but it was so bad that I got blood work done. I went to a neurologist thinking I had Lyme's disease.
Right, right.
Something was wrong, and I knew that much.
Mhm,
Got no answers from that until I was in this class that said one of the key features of anxiety is muscle tension. I'm like, oh, my muscles are tense.
mhm.
They're fatigued. So I'm shaking like you would at the end of an
Yeah.
exercise
Yep,
set.
yep.
And in that same class, we were taught meditation. And that was the first time that my mind became quiet. I felt at peace within myself. I realized that my mind was constantly thinking and I could
Mhm.
slow it down.
Yep.
And from there, I started to practice meditation on my own. And then eventually, a book called The Power of Now was given to me by my dentist,
Okay.
who noticed I was grinding my teeth
Oh,
from
alright.
stress.
Yep, yep.
And that book was like, phew, it gave like a name for everything. Like, oh, this is the reason I'm thinking, or the reason I'm caught in fear and attachment is
Mhm,
because I have an ego that wants to survive. And it's a natural, part of this mechanism.
mhm.
And, and then there's another part of me that's just pure consciousness. And I could consciously choose to identify more as that than the other. And from there came book after book. And it wasn't until after my sister passed that I went through a program to become a life coach in which I was coached and worked with
Oh,
therapists
okay.
and
Yep.
then started, working with people one-on-one to deepen my practices, but it was all
Awesome.
kind of self
Mhm.
and, the perfect place at the perfect time
Yeah,
kind of
that's
situation.
fantastic. So was there a moment where you could feel the shakiness leave your body, or was it a gradual thing?
Gradual.
Gradual. Okay.
And
Yep.
it always peaked when being on stage
Mhm.
singing a song that I wrote,
Oh, okay.
and
Sure.
not realizing I could do anything about it. So, meditation helped to a degree. I was also prescribed a beta blocker to help with the
Mhm.
panic, but it was eventually different tools that I used to help regulate my nervous system that really helped me get into a state of flow and performing
Nice.
and become like access, I guess, a general state of peace that was very consistent where like stress or anxiety was just like a blip.
Right, right. That's awesome. I mean, and I know this is a music podcast, but it's all about kind of like what inspires music. So I'm glad we're talking about this sort of thing, because I'm sure a lot of my listeners probably get super nervous on stage, right? And I'm sure a lot of them who are writing songs and all that stuff have emotions that they're working through. That's one of the reasons why they're writing songs, myself included. So I'm glad we're having kind of this type of conversation, and someone who sounds like you've overcome it, even though meditation and all this stuff is a practice. It's called a practice because you never perfect it, you
Hmm.
know. Um, I'm curious, like, and I've done my fair share of meditation. It's taken me a while to understand that it's not about necessarily turning the mind off, right?
Hmm.
Because I've talked to a lot of people who are like, I can't meditate because my mind won't shut off, blah blah blah. It's not about turning it off. It's just acknowledging some of these random thoughts that you're having while you're trying not to have them, and kind of like lassoing them and bringing them in again, right? Like, so give me your thoughts on meditation and how you kind of started doing that and how it was successful for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, but I love talking about meditation, and you're exactly right in that it's not so much about turning your thoughts off, even though you can enter states where the thoughts naturally disappear, at least for a moment.
Mhm.
So I would say it's more about strengthening your focus on some like meditation is like strengthening your endurance, building your capacity to maintain your focus on something like the breath
Right,
or
right.
a sound or the body
Mhm.
the body taking your mind from the thoughts, putting them something else
Mhm.
in the moment.
Yeah.
And you strengthen that awareness. So when you do start having a spiral of thought, you say, "Oh no, I'm not going down that way." Or you could say, "That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, that's not true." And you could come back to the breath.
That's awesome. That's
Mhm.
great. I love that you called it, it's you're building your endurance. I
Mhm.
don't think I've ever heard anybody describe it like that, and I think that's so true. It's like, if you wanna, go out and run a marathon, you don't just wake up one day and say you're gonna run a marathon and try to do it, you know?
Mhm.
You go out and run, like, a half a mile, and then a mile, and then a mile and a half. You build your way up, you build your endurance. Same thing with meditation. I'm gonna look right in the camera. If you guys are struggling with meditation or don't understand it, keep in mind, it is just building your endurance. You may only be able to do it for 30 seconds, where you
Mhm.
can say, oh, I'm having this thought. Let's try to bring it in, reel it in, think of something else, or focus on my breath. Anyway, I'm rambling now, but I think I love this conversation. So that's awesome. All right, if we're going to bring it back to music a little bit, right? So you had these songs from the past that you've been kind of tweaking and put it all into one collection. Now, I think we've already kind of answered this, but to make sure, you when you first reached out to me, you said you had this rock opera. When I hear rock opera, I think of, Pinball Wizard Tommy from The Who, right?
Mhm.
I'm not even sure if I know any other ones. Maybe Operation Mindcrime could be considered, from Queensrÿche, could be considered a rock opera because it's a concept album, or The Wall from Pink Floyd. What's your definition of a rock opera?
That's a good question, and, for me, it's that the songs are interlaced with story, and there is a consistent theme throughout it, that I'm capturing.
Okay. Yep.
So for me, like I could even when I was writing this out, I'm like, this is a musical. I could see this being acted out on stage. It's
Mhm.
very theatrical. So for me, it was like it was this movie in my mind, but it was all sound.
Right, right.
So I felt like I couldn't call it a musical because it wasn't a live thing yet.
Gotcha.
So
Yep.
by default, I'm like, it must be a rock
That makes
opera.
sense. Yep. I like that. I like that. So the song that you first wrote, "She's Home" or "She Is Home," is that right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Is that the end of your rock opera, or is it in the middle somewhere?
So I actually already recorded and released it
Okay.
on my first album that was with this Project Rhea.
Okay.
But it
Oh, okay. I
but it was
gotcha.
just with the
Sorry.
collection of songs,
Yep.
and then I took that song again and we re-recorded it.
Okay.
And I'm thinking about redoing it again because like we try to make it sound too much like the other one and it's
Mm.
different band members. So I'm like, I think it should now be acoustic or something. But anyways, it's I think it's the second to last
Okay.
track.
All right, cool. Yeah, it sounded when you were telling the story, it sounded to me like it was like, "Oh, here's kind of the finale of now I gotta build the story to lead up to it." Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your past releases. Like, do you have a lot of for well, let's start here. For my listeners who are not familiar with your work, how would you describe your music? Is it like rock, country, singer-songwriter, electronic? Like, give me the 15-second elevator pitch.
I think it's a little bit of everything,
Okay.
but rock at its core.
Mhm.
Sometimes it could sound a little more like classic rock, other times a little more like pop punk. It could be
Yep.
more alternative and heavy, or soft and acoustic and
Okay, cool.
singer-songwriter.
Cool. Very cool. And then when did you release like your first original song and what was it and all, and tell me all about that.
So I was originally in a band called Moon Days that
Okay.
was a three-piece
Mhm.
with two acoustics and one flute.
Oh, wow.
And and then we realized the flautist also he was really a drummer
Mhm.
originally. He also played keyboard, and then, we made it a live act,
Mhm.
full band. And that we called like a fluty folk rock
Okay.
that gradually got heavier.
Mhm.
So our first release was an EP, called Just Trying to Do.
Okay.
And, all three of us really loved the Beatles, but we loved The Who, we loved, Flaming Lips
Mhm.
together. So I think you'll get a taste of all those things, but it was recorded in a storage unit. I think it was 2013 that we released it. And there's to me there's still some hit singles on there. There's
Okay.
songs that, if our fans were to come to a reunion show, they'd be like,
Mhm.
play this one, and they'd all
Right.
be, going
Nice.
around to it. But it
Yep.
was a little softer and then gradually got heavier. And what I find interesting was that in tandem or like parallel with the writing of Moon Days, I started to write songs that were more progressive rock, I felt,
Okay.
that weren't appropriate. So like Ray already kind of formed in its earliest form while in that band, realizing like this isn't appropriate for this.
Mhm.
And then songs on the rock opera are either going to have that feel or they're also going to have a Moon Days feel to them where they were just songs that either weren't accepted,
Mhm.
meaning like they heard them and then something else was more exciting,
Gotcha. Yep.
or I didn't even show it because I
Mhm.
maybe, didn't think it was good enough at the time.
Right, right.
So there's going to be old fans that listen like, oh, this song is so Moon Days. And there's going to be
Mhm.
other people that's like, oh, this song is so Rhea, or it's just different
Right, right.
altogether.
Cool, cool, very cool. When did you first start, like when did you first pick up a guitar or do you play any instruments?
Hmm.
And then when did you kind of first start, even way back as a kid?
7 years old was when I
Wow,
got
okay.
my first guitar as a
Nice.
gift for going to or getting my Holy Communion.
Mhm.
And that was my ticket out. Like once I got that guitar, I'm like, okay, I'm not going anymore. That was the only way they could convince me. And my dad is a
Oh,
guitarist.
cool. Yep.
He played, and at the time was a very popular Doors tribute band.
Mhm.
He was the lead guitarist. So I grew up hearing him, having guitars around. We'd pick them up. Then I got my own when I was 7, and immediately, like as soon as I knew some chords,
Mhm.
I started putting them, in my own order and
Okay.
naturally singing over them.
Nice. So
Hmm.
you've always been kind of a natural original artist, right? Have you done a lot of covers or have you just always kind of been writing your own stuff?
Yeah, so as Moon Days, we would get in a cover or two.
Mhm.
There was one point where I could play every Blink-182 song in their catalog.
Nice.
I learned a lot of Beatles songs over
Mhm.
time.
Yep.
I was in a cover band. We still loosely say that we're together. Like if someone asked us to play, we
Oh,
would
cool.
play.
What's the name of that band?
Father of the Vibe.
Nice. I like that name. That's
Thanks.
awesome.
And I played my cousin's weddings,
Okay, cool.
acoustic love songs.
Yep,
So
yep,
I've dabbled in both, but really only focused as far as recording
yep.
on the original music.
Very cool. Very cool. And then I know you said you're releasing this rock opera as singles. Is there going to be a whole like album release like once the singles are out? Are you going to do the whole package?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
um, for some reason, it felt easier because it's taking so long to do the project has been in the
Mhm.
works for quite a few years now. It became easier to tell myself like, okay, I'm gonna finish these first 6 songs that I think are single worthy.
Mhm.
I'm gonna release them as I get them done, and 3 of which are released now.
Yep.
I'm gonna release another 3, and then I'm gonna really dive back into producing and mixing and mastering the rest of it, and then it'll be released first as just the soundtrack, so it'll just be the songs, and then
Okay.
after that, it's gonna be the whole thing with the
Nice.
story in between.
Do you have a name for the whole thing, the whole compilation?
Yeah, Dancing is the Point,
Dancing is the point.
and
Nice.
that's the title that's, one of the singles as the title
Okay.
track, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Love it. Any idea when that finished product will be out? Target date or anything?
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's sometime within 2026. It's
Okay.
been really hard to put a timeline to anything
Sure.
being a new
Yep.
dad.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right.
Everything slowed down major, and like as she was
Yep.
crawling, it felt like I was crawling back into the writing or back into the producing, and like
Mhm.
she's walking and I'm like, "Oh, I'm finally getting it." And then,
Right.
it's few and far between that I get to sit and work on it.
Sure,
So,
sure. You said you have a 1-year-old, right? Yeah,
yeah.
congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. And I assume you're recording at home then, right? You've got your own recording studio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Most was recorded at home. We recorded drums in a storage unit of a friend.
Yep.
He plays guitar, he plays some bass on the album as well, and then everything else was done in my room or
Mhm.
my keyboard drummer's room.
Okay. Did you wanna, give a little shout out to the rest of the folks that played on your project?
Yeah, absolutely. Jake Fuchsia, who I've been playing with for a really long time.
Mhm.
He's playing drums on the album. He's doing harmonies. He's doing keyboard. Um, I'm not sure if he did some claps in there too. We have a Mike Jazerski
Mhm.
who plays bass on the single "Swarming" that we released. He plays mostly lead guitar and some rhythm guitar. And then my younger brother Keith Bauberger's slapping the bass.
Okay. Nice. Slapping the bass. Nice. Okay, cool. So as far as family goes, it's you, your younger brother, and then your older sister who had passed then, right? Any other siblings?
I'm one of 5
Oh,
actually.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Are you all musical or
Most of us.
yeah?
So my oldest brother plays guitar, my
Mhm.
youngest brother plays. The middle brother Paul is an exquisite artist, and
Nice.
he's done most of my album art.
Oh, cool.
I'm sure he could play too if he gave it a try.
Nice.
But my sister she was a photographer. She didn't play music, but again, she was like my first music inspiration as far
Mhm.
as like showing me what else was out there other than
Okay.
the stuff my parents were playing.
Right, right. Other than the Doors.
Yeah.
That's funny. Very cool. What kind of music did she turn you on to?
So my first mix CD, called Eric's Rock CD.
She made
Um,
you a mixtape?
yeah.
Nice.
And
I love it.
it could have been like at least 20 songs on there.
Yep.
But it was Blink-182, Green Day, Weezer,
Mhm.
Sublime. Um, it was um, it was a POD. There
Nice.
were some other ones where it's
Mhm.
like the kind of like one hit wonders a little
Sure,
bit.
sure. Yep.
System of a Down, some heavier
Mhm.
stuff,
Yep.
things like that. And then once I said like, oh, I love this Blink-182 song, she made me the
Mhm.
whole catalog
Oh,
and would
okay. Yep.
even like print out the album cover like on a piece of
Oh,
paper
that's
and
cool.
slip it in there. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. I love it. Okay, cool. So then as far as inspirations go, like as far as your musical inspirations, I know you mentioned Blink-182 a couple times.
hmm
Who else you got?
So I know that I mentioned the Beatles already. They're
Mhm.
probably the band that I could listen to over and over again and
Yep.
still get something new, and probably the ones that I hope to emulate the most.
Mhm.
Um, as far as versatility, it's kind of hard to put them in a box.
Sure. Yep.
But then Flaming Lips, who I also mentioned, kind of became my new Beatles, where they could do anything from a pop song to something that's totally out there, like Pink
Right.
Floyd.
Yep.
Um, so I'd say more recently, Flaming Lips was
Mhm.
probably the most inspiration since the Beatles, if that
Okay.
makes
And
sense.
their big song was Vaseline, right? Is that
That was probably their first hit.
Yeah, yeah. So educate me a little bit on Flaming Lips, like, because that's the only song I know of them. I've never went
Hmm.
down their catalog. So what do you like about them? What's so great about Flaming Lips?
Great question. Um, I think they really took the time to create their unique sound. So
Mhm.
their original, I don't remember his name, but their original guitarist would make his own pedals.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
some of their like distorted sounds or like trippy guitar sounds are like very unique to them.
Mhm.
Then they do a beautiful job of like weaving together like acoustic or, regular guitar sounding songs with orchestral.
Oh,
So
okay.
kind of like the
Yep.
Beatles would do
Yep.
too at different points in
Yep.
their career, but they use beautiful strings, cool horns, so it creates
Mhm.
this really epic and full sound. And the lyrics are always very simple. This main singer, Wayne Coyne, his range is very in my range, so I
Mhm.
feel like I could really emulate it well.
Nice. Nice.
And then Stephen Drozd, who's really like the composer of the band,
Mhm.
he's just fantastic.
Okay.
Really, I think, really intelligent in his work. And again, it's one of those things where the more you listen to it, the more intricate and, the more thought out and the more authentic it sounds. So it was just
Nice.
like this new surge of authenticity. I'm like, oh, new amazing songs can be written,
Yeah,
since the Beatles, because I put them on
yeah.
such a pedestal.
Sure, sure. Yep. That's awesome. What album should I go listen to of the Flaming Lips?
My favorite is the Soft Bulletin.
Okay.
And then Yoshimi battles the Pink Robots. Ano- Another song that they have that you might have heard of is Do You Realize?
Okay.
It's like, Do you realize that you have the most
That sounds familiar.
beautiful face? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds very familiar. I probably heard it. Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll check it out though. Yeah. Cool. All right, so let's see. I assume you're all over social media, right? So
Trying to be.
how can my listeners find you if they wanted to explore your stuff?
So I'm on there as Eric Bauberger.
Mhm.
There's not many of us out there, so probably find me.
Yep.
And then there is a band page for Rhea. There is a band page for Moondays,
Okay.
but they're not current. I rarely log into my Rhea Instagram. I don't remember the last time I posted anything about my music on my personal page, but I have
Yep.
an email list. So like if
Okay.
someone were to reach out, I mean, they could find it through there, but if they sign up for my email list, that's
Mhm.
where they'll definitely see the singles.
Oh, okay.
But I'll probably post it on everything.
Cool. How do they sign up for your email list?
So I think I have it still with the song Swarming that's re-released as a single. I had something there where like I was giving away this little PDF where you could
Mhm.
listen to the song and you could follow this meditative process
Oh, okay.
that I put together,
Yep.
and that would naturally sign you up. But if it's not that way, I could just
Sure.
collect an email and add it myself.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How did that concept come about where you released a song with like a meditation with it? How did that come about?
I felt very split between myself as a life coach, which I was becoming professionally,
Mhm.
and a musician, which I just was by default.
Okay.
And I found that the more I dove into my own mindset and subconscious belief system and unintegrated emotions that needed reintegration, from that place came more music.
Mhm.
So my mentor Alyssa Nobriga would say, like, as you heal the unconscious, typically creativity is the ripple effect of that.
Sure. Yep.
So again, I felt very split because it's like, okay, this is how I help people, working with people in group or one-on-one sessions, but the musician is really how I want to express my message or
Okay.
really put myself forward.
Mhm.
And eventually someone was like, "You just gotta take the divider out between the 2. They're already one in the same." So I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna release this song, and then I'm gonna put this process with it that takes the energy and the message of the song and helps someone." I'll give the example, the song "Swarming" is very intentionally, like, late '90s, early 2000s pop punk.
Mhm.
It's very much my inner child coming through. So the exercise is to help people connect with their own inner child and to do something that really excites them and invokes that energy.
Oh, okay. All right. Does Swarming have lyrics?
It does.
Okay. All right. So there's this meditation, because when you said there's a meditation with the song, I assumed it was like an instrumental song. But how does someone meditate to a song with lyrics?
So, yeah, so the process itself I call meditative in that it's like
Meditative. Okay.
that it's not like a regular guided meditation, but it's more like a introspective, contemplative
Oh, okay.
PDF. So you could listen to the
Gotcha.
song,
Yep.
hopefully you feel energized by it,
Mhm.
and then you look at these 4 questions where you inquire within yourself,
Okay. Yep.
like, "What is my inner child really wanting today?" Maybe it's you go see a movie by yourself. I talk
Right.
about this thing called an artist date, which
Mhm.
this woman, Julia Cameron, prescribes. She has this amazing book called The Artist's Way, and she says, "For 2 hours every week, just by yourself, do something that nourishes your inner child."
That's cool.
So
I
for
like
me, it's
that.
like going to see a movie, going into a comic book store,
Yep. Yep.
hiking in the woods, something
Mhm.
that's really nourishing. So that's
Yeah.
kinda what the guided PDF intends to do, is to get people to put themselves in a situation where they're nourishing not just the inner child,
Mhm.
but the inner artist
Yeah.
to invoke creativity.
That's a really good point, and you bring up the example of, like, going to the movie by yourself. I don't know if anybody else listening has done it, but I've done that a few times, and I love it. You
Mhm.
know? It sounds weird to some people, like, why would you go to a movie by yourself? Isn't that sad? No, it's great.
Mhm.
Because it's literally, like, time to yourself, yet you're not trapped in your head, you're being entertained by this giant screen, you know what I mean? And there's just something special about just leaving your house and, not being alone in your thoughts all the time, leaving your house and being entertained and not having to put up a front because you're with somebody else that you're either trying to um you're trying to impress or not offend or whatever. You know what I mean? Like just being by yourself and being entertained can sometimes be healing in itself, I think.
Mm,
I've done it plenty of times and it's great. But yeah, maybe movies are not your thing. Like you said, go for a walk somewhere,
mm.
anything. I think time by yourself is very important. And anybody out there just struggling with anything, like don't be afraid to be by yourself. I mean, if you can't, if once you learn to be okay with being by yourself, it's, then bringing people in your circle is just a bonus, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's something special about solitude and, with self-love being one of the key messages of the rock opera and what my sister taught me, from Beyond the Veil, um, we can't really love ourselves unless we could feel ourselves and spend time with all parts of ourselves.
Mhm.
So when we get that solitude and we create that space for ourselves, it's really an act of self-love.
Right. Yep.
And there's something really nourishing about that. And it's when, I'm alone. And especially being in a family, when you're growing a family, it's like you're never alone. So when you could get that alone time, it feels really good and it makes you a better version of yourself to bring back to your
Mhm.
tribe, to your friends,
Yep.
to your loved ones. And again, not just to nourish yourself and not just for the inner child, which is really kind of the root of most of our psychoses.
Mhm. Sure.
Um, but the creativity that flows through that. So, this might sound really corny, but, lighting a candle, drawing a hot bath, pouring some Epsom
Mhm.
salt in there and laying in that,
Yep.
eventually, like 10 minutes in, I naturally just start singing,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Nice.
like it's so, I'm so in the zone there
Mhm.
that naturally words, whether it's just melody or lyrics, just begin to flow
That's cool.
from that place.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Is that like, well, so my next question is going to be, what is your process? What is your creative process? So, I mean, when you write a song, do you go into the bathtub, or like, what's your normal, what's your normal process look like?
So it's changed a lot over time. It used to be me playing a song that I learned from someone else,
Mm,
playing something wrong and thinking like, "Ooh, that sounds cool," and then,
mm,
creating chords and things around that, and then singing melody over that, and at the very end, putting lyrics to those mouth shapes that I was making. I'm like, "Oh, these sound like these words, those
yep.
e's, those oohs,
Mhm,
those ahs," and then a lot of my songwriting, a lot of Rhea, the first album, was early in the morning. I'm also a personal trainer, and there was a period of time where I would have to catch an early train, like the 4 a.m. train into Philly.
mhm,
And naturally, at that time, driving, starting to sip my coffee, melatonin is really high. So I
sure.
started
Yep.
writing a lot of songs just vocally, just, singing lyrics in a melody, and then later coming home and putting chords to it. And that's when, it became more progressive rock. Because when I did it that way,
Mhm.
I was changing time signatures, I
Oh,
was
yeah, that
changing
makes sense.
tempos.
Yep.
My writing completely changed.
Wow.
Um, Now it's like it's really simple moments like being out back with the dog, looking up
Mhm,
at the stars at night and beginning to sing about that, or being in Vermont in the mountains and
mhm,
just again, like at night, really being nourished by the environment, words start to flow through, and then later I find the chords. And a lot of my most recent songs have, it's really like a channeling. Like I almost can't feel like I could take full credit for it because it's
really?
just
Nice.
like I'm like a radio, I'm tuning my
Yep,
frequency,
yep.
and then something just starts to flow through. I'm like, "Okay, that's another song, I gotta write it." And then it gets
That's
written
awesome.
and, gets on the
Yeah,
back
it
catalog.
reminds me a lot of, what Rick Rubin said in his book. What's it called? The Creative, is it called?
Creative act.
Creative Act, yeah.
Love
For
that
some
book.
reason, I was thinking it was Process, but yeah, you're right, it's a creative act. He basically says kind of the same thing. It's out there. Your stuff is out there already. You just have to keep open enough to be able to catch it, you know?
Mhm.
So I think that's great. I love that. Okay, so there was another question I had for you, and it fell right out of my head. I forget what it was. Oh yeah, kind of your life aside from music, right? You mentioned life coach, personal trainer. Obviously, you're in great shape.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
what do you do aside from music? Are you a full-time life coach? Like, what's your professional life look like?
Yeah, thank you for the wonderful compliment.
You're welcome.
And I do work for myself completely, mostly from home,
Mhm,
either coaching people one on one, life coaching, where it's, people are like, "What's life coaching? How's it different from therapy?"
mhm,
It's these therapeutic processes and meditative processes that help people become aware of their mindset, their emotions, and their habits. And it's a process of helping people clarify what it is they really want and reconstructing their habits and their mindset to be supportive of that.
mhm.
So creating change from the inside out. Some people that I was personal training before becoming a life coach do both with me.
Oh, cool.
It's more, I would say, therapeutic personal training
Mhm.
rather than like bodybuilding or
Oh,
athletes.
I see. Yep.
Where like, yeah, we'll strength train, but I was in the physical therapy world before the personal training world.
Mhm.
So that's always kind of the foundation of, creating core stability and helping people improve their posture and their flexibility, and then building strength on top of that. But in addition to that, um, I'm a co-founder of a program called Unshaken, which is an exercise group and resource and nonprofit for people with Parkinson's
Oh,
disease.
wow. That's awesome. Yep. Yeah, when you said earlier about, you had this like shake or tremor from stress, I was
Hmm.
thinking Parkinson's. But so it's interesting that this conversation comes back around to that. How did you get involved with this? I know you said you were a co-founder, but how did that start?
I was in a physical therapy clinic where
Mhm.
there were people specialized in treating people with Parkinson's.
Okay.
So by default, I learned what was called LSVT. I can never remember. It's someone's name. It's like Lisa something vocal training, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
this whole concept around basically doing movements and exercises that are the opposite of the symptoms of Parkinson's.
Really?
So the
Okay.
symptoms, not everyone has the tremor, but
Okay.
everyone's movement gradually becomes smaller.
Mhm.
The voice becomes softer. Um, they begin to lose facial expression.
Wow, okay.
So all the movements are really big, really exaggerated, really
Mm.
loud, really articulate. And it just so happens that these exercises, which help with Parkinson's and help them produce more dopamine, which is the neurotransmitter that is being regulated less and less, or it's kind of
Is
downshifting. And
that what Parkinson's is, really?
yeah,
Wow,
so it's
okay.
a neurodegenerative disease in the brain
Mhm.
affecting the part that produces dopamine.
Okay. Yep.
And that starts to affect all these muscular parts of the body, or those muscular movements.
Mhm.
And so, what naturally, or what we have found to help people with Parkinson's, also helps people with anxiety and with stage fright.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
when you're in a state of panic or you're having stage fright, your dopamine is getting low and your
Mm.
cortisol is high.
That makes a lot of sense now.
So
Yeah.
movement and breath work being something I do all the time and that I teach a lot of people,
Mhm.
is something that brings your cortisol back up.
Okay.
So physically, like I have,
Your dopamine back up. Your
yeah,
dopamine.
yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
brings,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
so bring the cortisol down, you bring
Yep.
the dopamine back up
Yep.
through movement, through breath work. It helps you get into a state of flow for performing, whether you're an
Mhm.
athlete or a musician,
Yep.
and it helps people with
That makes
Parkinson's.
so much sense. And it's weird, like, I guess in my subconscious, I probably kind of understood that a little bit. I didn't know the dopamine cortisol thing with Parkinson's, but like, the first thing that pops into my head when you were talking was the show Ted Lasso. I don't know if you've ever watched it.
I know of it.
But like there's a the owner of the soccer team, she gives some advice to somebody who's about to like speak in front of a whole bunch of people, and she's like, this is what I do every time before I go out and have to do these press conferences. And like she gets like by herself and she makes herself like really, really big, like really exaggerated big movements. And
Hmm.
that popped into my head as soon as you were talking about, this stuff. And I was like, man, it's so weird how it all kind of comes together. But yeah, that makes sense. So I mean, if any musicians out there who are terrified to go on stage, do something silly, right? Shake it out, make yourself big, and that'll probably help. I didn't realize that, when you're in a state of like stress, like stage fright or nervous to go on like that, I didn't realize that was a drop of dopamine. So it
Hmm.
makes sense that if you get your body moving and that does generate the dopamine stuff and lowers the cortisol, that makes so much. Sorry, I'm processing it all while I'm talking. It's amazing.
No, I
It's
think
amazing.
it's helpful for the listener to hear you
Yeah.
speak it again.
That's great. I love it. I love it. Absolutely. All right, cool. I think I've covered pretty much all of my questions. Is there anything else you wanted to promote or talk about before we wrap things up?
Yeah, so, I would love to offer an opportunity to anyone that is either a musician struggling to write, struggling to get into that creative state, struggling with balancing your professional life with your artistic life, or people struggling with stage fright and anxiety. I welcome people to reach out to me.
Hmm.
If there's any resources I could share, when my schedule's open enough, I offer people complimentary sessions so they
Nice.
could get an understanding of what's out there, what tools you have
Hmm.
access to. And again, as I'm someone that has had this nonlinear journey of figuring out who I was and what my purpose is, it's become my passion to help people do the same. So if I could help someone realize the capacity that they have to be this authentic, creative person and make money doing it,
Hmm.
or be of service doing it, or
Yep.
do it in tandem to whatever their profession is. What is your genius zone? Let me help you find it,
That's awesome.
because I'm lit up being in my own.
That's great. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Is there a website or anything that people can reach out to you, or just should they look for you on Facebook or whatever?
I do have a website
Mhm.
that is incomplete, but it's ericbauberger.com.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we had the messaging set up on that yet, but
Okay.
I think reaching out to me through social media might be
Okay.
easiest.
Yep.
And if you have like show notes with links, I could put
Yeah. Yep.
my email in there or
Yeah,
something.
that'll be great. I'll link to the YouTube version of this. I'll link down in the description like how to reach out to you and stuff like that. So that'll be awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
Awesome.
All right, Eric. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I appreciate you talking with me.
Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
it was awesome. Thanks.